More pullback today. The Dow, NASDAQ, S&P across the board are down. NASDAQ by the most, 1%. Even Bitcoin dipping below 90,000 first time in months has also been a headline. So what's going on here? Doug Flynn, Zito Capital Management. You know, valuation has been part of the conversation. Absolutely, you know. And then it's like, all right, so now we pull back a little bit. So you look at it the other end. Is the market pulling back a bit too much here? I mean, what are you hearing? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to off of the April lows. If you think back to that point, the S&P's up over 40%. I think the NASDAQ's up over 60%. So when you have that kind of a run since April, you know, anywhere between a 5 to 10% correction is not a big deal because you've had that kind of run. So you're consolidating some of those gains. You're getting towards the end of the year. Of course, the market needs a reason. People need a reason to sort of take some profits and rearrange things for gain or loss purposes before the end of the year. So some of that is going on. It's very normal. I don't really worry too much until it gets more than 10%. But I mean, even gold is up 40 to 45% year to date, although it's not quite at its high as well. So everything's had a really good year. Even your bonds are up almost 7%. So yeah, so those are good things.
It makes sense when you put it that way. Now, I want to try to squeeze in two stories here in the 90 seconds we have left. Meta did not violate antitrust laws. The ruling came down today when it bought Instagram and WhatsApp. So that seemed to be a pretty big antitrust ruling. Quick analysis on that?
Yeah, I think, you know, when this first was brought in 2020, the paperwork that was filed didn't even mention TikTok. So the FTC has to prove that they're a monopoly still. And I think that's where it didn't pass muster because there's so many other variations that even if they were a monopoly, they're not any longer. And that's why I think they got this tossed.
And the other story, I mentioned this right before the break, that there are hidden costs of home ownership that anybody who's owned a home knows are a thing. Yes. But that they're more of a thing, that they've been going up and tightening the squeeze on home buyers. You see some of this here on the screen. Thoughts, importance, what do we do about it?
Well, you know, homeowners insurance premiums, as an example, are up 50% in the last 5 years. And in places like Florida, they're up 70%. So you have that issue. And this is the same thing I tell all my clients, whether they're looking at buying a new car or a new home, certainly. One of the things that you should do is call your insurance person where you currently have your insurance and ask them, hey, if I am to buy this, what would my cost be? So many people don't even bother to ask that it might be much more than you're paying now. And you need to weigh that in and add that into, it's not just the principal and interest payment. It's the homeowners, it's the maintenance, it's the real estate taxes, all those things. So those are good ideas there to take a look at. But those expenses are running faster than the rate of inflation and faster than what people's income is rising every year. Right. That's the problem.
There's the bell. All right, Doug. Thanks. Good advice as always. Doug Flynn.